Oregon Country Fair started in 1969 as a Renaissance fair. Since the beginning, it has worked for the community, with the proceeds from that first fair going to a free school for children. The fair has grown and evolved over the years with many more educational and philanthropic activities. It's also become a more earth-friendly fair. This video describes many of these activities and how this joyful fair is not only a party, but a party with a purpose.
Archaeology here at the Country Fair is an important part of the fair because we get to show people what they've been doing. What people have been doing out here for probably around the last 11,000 years. And Ark Park here is our favorite spot at the fair, because here we do a lot of demonstrations of ancient ways, and we do a lot of other workshops for folks, that sort of thing, and we have a replicas booth where people can buy replicated tools. We have our favorite is a fire show. Somebody shows people how to make fire, essentially by rubbing two sticks together. It's a lot of fun. More importantly, it serves as one of the educational arms of the Country Fair. It's an honor and a privilege to help the public here understand what the fair is trying to do as we caretake this land. The information that we've derived from this area and the archaeology that has been done as a result of the fair projects and the ODOT project has shown us that we have ancient Camas ovens, an upland site that is probably was partial winter quarters and certainly was fall acorn gathering area. We have down here on the floodplain some old Camas ovens where people used to dig pits, and put rocks in, heat them up, toss in the Camas, and well, sort of like a clam bake. You could say it was our earliest evidence comes from a food booth, and for a long time it's apparently always been about the food booth. We're proud of archaeology at the Oregon Country Fair.
Hi, my name is Blake Scott, and I'm Operations Manager here at Energy Park. And behind us is our information booth. And around the park is a number of other booths. And one of our primary missions here at Energy Park is to provide information about alternative energy technologies. So each of the different booths represent a different genre of alternative energies. And the second aspect of our mission here at the Oregon Country Fair is to provide a forum for folks to express the information that they have to a larger audience. And so we have a stage over here, Keezy Stage, where people can get up and talk about their area of expertise. There's also open forums where people can dialogue, and that's really important to getting the word out about alternative energy. And sort of the third aspect in our mission is providing actual solar showers here at the Country Fair for staff and the public to use. And those are actually located behind the info booth. And up on top of the info booth is where we have our collectors for that passive solar hot water heating. And we also have an area called Ag Alley, and that is kind of the agricultural tie-in to alternative energy technologies. So we provide a number of different aspects here at the Country Fair to get across our message, and look forward to seeing you there.
Hi, I'm Janet and Planet Bubbles from the Community Village. The Community Village is a wonderful place. We showcase over 80 different 501c and other nonprofit groups, and they present all day. They present things like workshops on how to do things like sustainable business and how to promote better kinds of energy, and they teach you about communication and the freedom of communication, and we have art and health, and it's just a wonderful place to be.
one of the founders of the fair was Bill Wooten, and Bill and Cindy, actually his wife Cindy Wooten, they owned the Odyssey Coffee House in downtown Eugene, and it was such a gathering place for activists and artists and free thinkers and just all kinds of free-spirited people that it seems natural that really the idealism that came out of that time really led to the Oregon Country Fair. We widely consider Bill to be the father of the country fair. So when he died in the early 1990s, we established the Bill Wooten Endowment Fund as a way to sort of continue his vision of doing a lot of good things for a lot of good people, and particularly in the way of education. The Fair Endowment has awarded grants totaling more than $100,000 so far, and that's just been in about a decade. Like for example, in '03, we awarded grants to the Campfire Girls Camp that was out in the Veneta area, also to the Crow Applegate Lorraine School District, and that was a whole bunch of ideas and projects on educational and art projects discovering our local history. So in a lot of ways it's been really about feeding the kids and the minds in the Veneta Elmira area as a way of thanking them for letting us come in and take over their town for a weekend every summer. It's a nice thing, and it does a lot of really good work.
The Jill Hyman Vision Fund is really unique because it comes from the people itself. Individual fair members give $1 or give a food voucher or give $5, and then the fair matches that, and then we give that money to nonprofit agencies in the community. It's named after a woman. Jill Hyman was an early fair attorney. She was one of the first attorneys that we were organized enough to have. She was very well known in the Eugene area, very involved in many different organizations, and she really believed in the importance of community, the importance of organizations giving to each other and furthering common goals. So in honor of Jill died in 1991 in childbirth, and to honor her we began this fund in 1996. Some examples of who's received the money from the Vision Fund in the past: we've given money to Food for Lane County, which is a food bank that provides food for hungry people in Lane County. This year the recipients include Huerto de la Familia, which is an organization that helps Latinos harvest and grow their own organic food and have a place for them to have organic gardens. We have money that's going for Head Start, for transportation access for rural families to get their kids into Head Start. Also, we have money that has gone to St. Vincent de Paul for prescriptions and dental care for people who are homeless or nearly homeless. So those are the kind of basic needs that we really meet dollar by dollar here in the community, and it's a very good way for the Oregon Country Fair to be part of the local community.
I think it was about 2001 that we started the spoken word program, and there was only one person in it. It was Alex Olson, and she came in a rather impromptu. But then in 2002 we really connected with the community at Country Fair, and with Ram Dass and Paul Krasner, and there were a dozen other guests. That was really the kickoff to the spoken word program. 2003, I think we followed up with Stephen Gaskin and Holly Neer and a few folks like that, and it grew. I think there was 24 people that year, and the following year there was 38. I swore I'd never do 38 people again, so this year we did 57. You know, originally we were thinking that it would be fun to have some icons of the culture, of our culture, people in leadership positions to come in and just share and talk about what they're doing. And now what has actually happened is that, yes, that has continued, but workshops have also developed out of the program, and we continue to bring in new speakers as well as have some returnees. And the feedback from the community is that it's well, some people have called it the missing link in the intellectual stimulation for what the fair used to have and didn't for a while, but now it's back. So I'm quite inspired to be a part of this fairly large group of people right now that is producing the spoken word program at the Oregon Country Fair. Sometimes people ask, well, how do you choose who you have in the lineup with the spoken word? And first off, I try to get gender balance as close as I can. Then I try to get a wide spread of ages, from the very youngest people that I can find to the oldest people that I can find. And so far it's been from about 12 years to about 80 years old. And then the topics has been a real challenge. I've decided, rather than just have what you might consider traditional spoken word, to branch out into educational topics, to actual spoken word, hip-hop, poetry, but also to have authors and educators and astrologers and scientists, and get a broad range of intellectual material to come into the program.
Well, the fair site now is close to 400 acres, and we manage the property pretty much as a wildlife refuge. In the summer, the species is human wildlife, and then the other times of the year it's beaver, deer, birds, so we don't allow hunting, and we try to minimize the human impact, clean up after ourselves, and so that when the seasons change in the fall, the place is pretty well cleaned up of all of our impact and artifacts. And we do a lot of land enhancement things. We have a nursery on site and a small crew that gathers seeds, gathers plant starts, propagates trees and shrubs. We have a native plant policy. The only stuff we plant is native and indigenous to this ecosystem. We use that for riparian restoration projects along the river, and to replace lost trees and species in the public part of the fair, and for landscaping enhancement in the public parts of the fair. And we have, over the course of the years, done a number of grant restoration projects, several on the far side. Over on the fair side, the primary one is the Indian Creek Enhancement Project. Indian Creek, sometime in the 30s, was channelized and ditched into its current location, and the maintenance regime in those days was to manage it as a drainage ditch, scrape it out every couple of years. Well, we stopped doing that about 18 years ago, and then 6 years ago, we got a grant from the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board to do an enhancement project over there. Which was try to get away from a channel, steep trapezoidal banks, and hardly any diversity or species that you would find in a normal creek. And the other idea was to create a riparian corridor between the river where the creek empties into, and a piece of our property at the west end of the creek. That we have designated as a no-entry zone. It's probably a 40-50 acre parcel called the unorganized territory. And there's a beaver population up in there, dams and ponds, and they're there year-round. But because of the channelized nature of it, it doesn't retain much water in the off-season. The idea was to widen the creek in a few spots, create more streamside and stream habitat. We removed about 1,300 cubic yards of fill, placed them in an upland area, and then came back in and reshaped oxbows and ponds and bends, and created wider channels, and did an extensive replanting with native species. And you can walk out there now and see that, and it's a much more green and friendly habitat.
The recycling effort at the Oregon Country Fair is an incredible amount of work on the part of nearing 100 folks. We've got about 90 on our crew, and then significant others come to help. And what we do is we collect barrels around we have recycling stations everywhere throughout the fair. And the one true thing we know for sure is no can stands alone. So every garbage can is going to have recycling next to it. And that way we hope to make recycling just as easy as tossing something as waste. We've been working real hard for the last few years to become as close to zero waste as possible. Now, many may debate whether zero waste is possible, but what we're coming to right now is general estimated figures, because I don't have them in my brain right now, would be we are nearing more than 80% recycling rate. When you take the amount of waste that's generated and the amount of waste that's recycled, and then you calculate the recycling rate, we're up to 80%, which is quite astounding. One of the ways that we achieve that is because we have such dedicated volunteers that literally sort the cans from the bottles. And you maybe can hear it in the background. That sound is bottles going cling clang and being sorted so that they go back to the distributor, back into the recycling loop. Then we've got the plastics. Unfortunately, we're collecting all the plastics together. There are only a few varieties of plastic within that really do get recycled, but they really do, and they're valuable enough to be worth it, and we're dedicated enough to do it. It's just an astounding thing to see. The other real important thing that we have been doing is just recently, about 3 years ago, we started to try to encourage all the paper plates, the food-related paper plates, to go to the compost pile. Unfortunately, we do get a lot of plastic forks in there and a lot of plastic cups. So through a real community effort on the part of the vendors, on the part of the Fair Board of Directors, Fair staff, all the volunteers, we are going so close, because now 2/3 of the fair is using durable forks. So that fork contamination is not happening in our piles anymore. We're very excited about that. And we're going to be washing them in a certified kitchen. Food for Lane County is going to be renting us their kitchen to wash those, and then they'll go into permanent storage for next year. And we'll use them again and again and again. We'll be reducing that whole need to use plastic forks. We're really excited about that. The compost pile is almost done. We just need to get all that plastic out of it. And the stuff that we composted about 3 years ago is looking rich and black, worms and worm eggs. It's just fantastic. We just need to get the plastic out, and we know how.
So Culture Jam Youth Camp, we're really excited about it. It's held 1 month after the fair. We bring about 48 kids together with 25 staff members, and the staff members are in all different areas, mostly artists, because this is a mostly arts-based camp. They are actors, singers, circus arts, we have nature educators, and we have people who do yoga and meditation, and we also have social activists, people who care about making change, positive change in their community. It's based on a model created by Charlie Murphy and Peggy Taylor. They have Power of Hope up in Washington, and it's a very exciting and unique model, because every day there are workshop sessions where we have up to 5 workshops going at once, and youth have a lot of choice of what they want to take, so it's really rocking when we get rocking. And the staff who are not giving workshops at the time, they also choose workshops to go to. So basically it's multi-generational. Everybody's going to workshops together. And by the end of the week, the youth are leading all the workshops, and we're all going to them. So leadership is a huge piece of this. And it's arts-based, so youth find their own voice to discover what they care about in the world. So if you know any youth out there, 14 to 18, send them to our website. Every August, it's Culture Jam.
A lot of people worked on creating a vision for Chela Mela, and we threw around ideas of let's see, what do we call it, the Global University, and we also threw around ideas of kind of a festive, participatory place I particularly wanted kind of a alternative sideshow midway, and when it came down to it, we did a lot of visioning, and then we started looking for the actual people who could populate it and could make it happen. And at that point, it began to take shape, and we found people who could teach juggling. We found people who could run a kids parade. We found people who could do kids crafts. And one of the ideas that we threw out in these meetings was, wouldn't it be great if we had, say, a solar-powered bubble machine, just using our wildest fantasies? And it turned out somebody had one and brought it those first couple years, and we had this tower that was about 30 feet tall that was solar-powered that bubbles came off of. The way the booth selection went, people had a wide range of places they could choose, and it turned out one person chose a booth that was in the central meadow, and it was open to them. But when nobody chose it, that became the public space. And that's pretty much evolved, and now we protect it fiercely, that we want it to stay public space, because there's this whole area that's different from other places in the fair because it is participatory, and that you can see for a wide area, you can see people doing other types of activities other than just what you're doing. And we've really been guided by the idea of participation and having people be a part of the show, and not entertaining them, but having them get involved and do the things. Like having children in the parade has been fabulous. My favorite kids parade we had was called the Royalty Parade, and the adults would roll out the red carpet for the children, and the children then, dressed as royalty, walked on the red carpet and stopped when they got to the end of it, and then the adults rolled it out again. And those kids were just so proud, and you could tell they had that feeling of taking on what it might feel like to be an important person. And it's an experience kids didn't have at the fair before. It's never been intentional to make it into a kids area, but it seems the kids take on the participatory stuff so naturally and so easily that it's become known as a kids area. And I think that's been fine. It's been good for the fair to have a place where the kids do feel really comfortable, and adults feel really happy to have their kids there and comfortable letting them run around.
The fair family has grown so much that trying to balance the needs of the fair family with bringing new things to the people who really still pay most of the bills, which are the paying public that comes during the day, helping them to feel truly a part of the event and not separate from it, and continuing to bring activities and experiences to the fair that are a direct expression of our values and the things we care about and the changes we want to see in the world. So that's been a real focus. I think that we woke up to that in some way in 96 and 97. We have to be who we say we are as fully as we can, and in everything we do. And so the youth program, Culture Jam, the spoken word, which is really about both education and action, definitely, and the vision for society, for culture, for the world, and how we can do that together, how we build community around those values and those ideas. Those kind of things are what sort of my focus has been in recent years to and what a gift to get to call being the general manager of the country fair your job, honestly. And I would challenge us to be much more of what we can be in the world. The world needs us. The world needs us big time. And why not the fair? Why shouldn't we be leading the changes that we want to see in the world? We have the most enormously full bank of social capital that any group I know. When I tell people about the number of volunteers we have and the length of time people have been volunteering, the number of vendors who have been here since the beginning in our family, the number of entertainers, people gasp. They don't believe it. They don't understand it. They don't get it, and they always say, "How do you do it?" And And my only answer is it's just love. It's just that yearning to belong to a community that is real and that whose absolute fuel is love. And we should just be loving each other more, you know, and spreading that out. So.